Well met, Wanderer. Come on in, pull up a chair, stay for a spell. While you are here, enjoy a story, maybe some laughs. I am your host. I put the pan in Pan's Tavern. You can call me Panda. By now, you're probably wondering, what's this guy's deal? Well, the long and short of it, not too long ago, I was inspired by YouTubers like Seth Skrzkowski, Puffin Forest, and even Just Jackdaw, to name a few, in sharing my experiences as a gamer. In this particular case, D&D. It's a passion that rivals my love of cooking, but had been mostly sidelined, till about 2 to 3 years ago when I had the opportunity to start indulging once more. Many of the stories I will be sharing here take place in my own homebrew world, but there are also several from my time in Adventurers League, which I hope to do again more in the future. Even with pre-made modules and adventurers, the experiences and stories which result can only be described as unique. It's something that I highly suggest to every player or DM. Try it at least once. As for which stories are which, I leave that up to you to guess. So, if you'll join me on this journey, it gets a little crazy sometimes, but I hope you will all find it as entertaining as I do. Before getting into my first tale, though, I wanted to take a quick moment to share my history with D&D. I started with these editions you see before you. AD&D, in the days of dreaded THAC0 and System Shock. Some still argue whether it's 2nd edition or 2.5, then transitioning into 3 and 3.5. I will be honest, though, I only played one session of 4E, played some Pathfinder, then got into 5E, which is mostly what we run now. All of them had good and bad, but let's not get into that, shall we? Now, without further ado, let's get to the story, shall we? This one is a little bit different, so please bear with me. Take one part Munsters or Addams Family, throw in another part A-Team, a combination that can go horribly wrong, or absolutely right. All the players were asked to create non-traditional monster race characters. These resulted in a Dancer Tabaxi Ranger, bizarre Goblin Wizard, and a Kenku Rogue with a almost parrot-like manner of talking. Throw in a Bugbear NPC for flavor and disposable plot device. Nothing could go wrong, right? Waking up near the town of Alebarrow on a quiet morning, the trio started noticing things, or rather, the absence of things. In particular, their belongings and a companion. They ruled out a kidnapping upon realizing the only tracks into and out of the camp was a certain Bugbear's. Before they can give chase, he proudly returned with a flimsy piece of parchment, and not their stuff. This fool had sold off their belongings to purchase a very poorly drawn treasure map. Deciding killing him was a bad idea, they dragged him back to the city, hoping for a refund. The first stop was a very seedy tavern called the Pompous Arrow, run by one Naaman Creel. Although upon reaching their destination, they quickly realized the locals were more interested in mocking the group than actually helping with anything useful. One of the patrons did stand out above the rest, as he expressed a rather odd interest in the Tabaxi and how different they were from their four-legged counterparts. This resulted in a rather weird petting situation, where the Kenku discovered a new favorite phrase, per the Tabaxi's instructions of above the waist. It took some time, but the companions were able to finally move forward after bribing the tavern keeper with his own coin for the information they required. All of this would have been memorable enough, but the goblin decided more was needed. When the tavern keeper noticed his coin pouch missing, the goblin used his magic to make it appear in the lap of the cat-curious patron. Chaos quickly erupted, and later rumors surfaced of guards being necessary to deal with the situation. All this mattered little to the companions, though, as they had a new target. One Helmut Bigham at the Spoilt Sheep, and later a Bugbear to find, as he had once again disappeared. From Naaman, they discovered their next destination was once an inn, which now served as a tavern and retirement home for members of Halagard, a well-known but now mostly disbanded group of sellswords like Helmut, known for tricking newer, inexperienced, or gullible adventurers with schemes similar to that which fooled the Bugbear. The tavern portion, which provided steady coin for its owners, was like any other, with decent food and drink. This enticed our trio of companions to partake in a meal and drinks while snooping about. After an awkward encounter with the barmaid, thanks to a certain Kenku's new favorite phrase, they learned most of Hallowguard's members were currently out on a side job. Further investigation that day revealed 5 possible injury points. Waiting for nightfall and choosing the roof as most likely for success, they were like shadows clinging to walls and prowling along rooftops as they descended upon the target, easily breaking into the attic and dealing with some oversized rats. They celebrated by rummaging through nearby crates. The nervous Kenku was content with these mere trinkets within, but, having been humiliated, this was not enough for the Tabaxian goblin, so they proceeded down from the attic into the living quarters of Hallowguard's members. Each room was treated like a store offering free merchandise, taking whatever was wanted or needed. About halfway through the rooms they encountered their first occupant, a human seemingly drunk and sleeping happily near a burning fireplace. Deciding the risk was too great and best to move on to the next room, which proved even more dangerous. The room itself was clean and orderly, looking to belong to a cleric with its shrine, but it was the figure kneeling in front of the fireplace that unnerved the companions so. He was a well-built figure, shaved head, with pale, slightly greenish skin, which wasn't too surprising for a half-orc. It was his clothes, which none of the companions had ever seen before, that was causing such trepidation. He wore a black leather vest and pants that weren't pants, revealing areas that most would prefer to keep covered, and a strangely revealing undergarment, with gloves that were stretched unnaturally tight across his hands and fingers. This was Brug, another of Hallowguard's companions, with strange tastes, and thankfully only had eyes for Helmet. Even though that relationship seemed mostly one-sided, he was undeterred according to rumors. Unable to depart quietly enough, the large man stirred, believing it to be his love, Helmut, looking for company. The companions fled back to Helmut's room, just in case. Brug charged out of his room in a love-struck frenzy and down the hall, hoping to find his true love. Thankfully, this was in the opposite direction, leaving a clear path. The companions made sure not to miss this chance, darting past the half-orc's room to another, which they hoped was unoccupied. What awaited them inside was almost beyond belief, an indoor garden filled with so many strange plants and mushrooms. Here they discovered a hallucinogenic substance which caused extreme paranoia when applied. The Kenku decided this would be justified punishment for Helmut, the human they believed to be sleeping in the other room. Taking initiative, the Kenku snuck back across the hall to apply this newly acquired substance to the sleeping figure they believed to be Helmut. All they had to do now was wait for the fun to begin. It didn't take more than a few moments before the man was barreling down the hall, his frantic screams echoing off the walls. Brug was waiting with open arms, ending in a tangled mess of limbs. Shortly after, the Kenku decided to rejoin his companions in the other room, where they quickly realized they weren't so alone. It seemed a Trifron flower had been tasked with guarding this room. What followed was a hard lesson about just how dangerous houseplants could be. The tabaxi suffered much of its wrath and avoided becoming fertilizer thanks to the quick actions of her companions. Outside, Brug and Helmut were interrupted by the remaining Hallowguard member present, who seemed to be rather fed up with their usual antics while she was trying to sleep. She gave them something to truly scream about as she chased them into the darkened streets below, blade in hand. Undeterred by the appearance of this newest member, they simply picked up the pace as they continued their task. Most notable of their pilfered treasures was a strange set of magical furry manacles from Brug's room, and from another, a candle that when lit caused its viewer to dance hypnotically. Deciding there was nothing more after visiting each of the rooms, they decided it was time to leave, and it was then that their luck ran out. While making their way towards the attic, the angry female that had been chasing Brug and Helmut returned. Unable to hide successfully, she became aware of their presence, chasing and cornering them in a nearby room. Her attempt to catch them was thwarted by the goblin in his mischief, using both the candle and hallucinogen. she was sent screaming into the streets once more. Making sure not to let this opportunity pass, they collected their things, making their way into the attic, onto the roof, and disappearing with the night. They spent some time laying low before trying to continue on, but they felt avenged, and that is what mattered most to them. So beware when crossing demi-humans. And remember, if you like this and want to see more, please be sure to like and subscribe. Also, leave your comments and questions below. I would love to hear about your own crazy stories. I hope to be back very soon with another video. Till then, I bid thee farewell, and make sure to mind your P's and Q's.